Hello everyone, my name is Shane Dialogo. For this video, we are gonna talk about the Situs Taxation. So grab your pen and a piece of paper and listen carefully to my discussion. What is Situs Taxation? Situs is defined Latin for situation or location. It basically means the place where to tax the income or property of a person. Its literal meaning pertains to the place of taxation and is a limitation on the taxing power. The general rule about the placement of tax is that taxing cannot go beyond the territorial limits of the taxing authority. But within such limits, it may tax persons, property, income, or businesses. According to NSG Law Office, there are different tax rules legislated in each taxing jurisdiction as it will depend upon various factors like the subject to tax and its nature. Basically, the state where the subject to be taxed has a situs may rightfully levy and collect the tax. In the Philippine context, Situs of Taxation applies to the following. Number 1 is real property. A tax is given to where the property resides or where it is located. The local government imposes real property tax on real property situated within their location. The real estate is subject to taxation whether the owner is resident or not. Example: an overseas Filipino worker owns an operational building in the Philippines. He will still pay the real property tax even though he is not in the Philippines because his property is located herein. Number 2. Tangible personal property. This kind of property is taxable where the subject is physically located, notwithstanding that the owner resides in another jurisdiction. There is no tax in owning the tangible property. But if it produces income or lease, the property is taxable where it is physically located. Number 3. Intangible personal property. Intangible property is a property that is neither seen nor touched. This kind of property is taxable at the domicile of the owner, or what we call as the principle of mobilia secundaria personam. An example of this is if a foreigner owns a share of stock here in the Philippines and he or she generates income, it is taxable, since the share of the foreigner receives protection in the Philippine law. Number 4. Income. The income of a Filipino from the country or outside the country is taxable. However, if a non-resident of the country and a foreign corporation does business and trade in the Philippines, the situs of taxation is limited only to the source of income it gets within the Philippines. Number 5. Business, occupation, and transaction. NSG Law Office stated that here in the Philippines, the taxes on business, occupation, and transaction are VAT, percentage tax, and excise tax. The general rule is that the power to levy an excise tax depends upon the place where the business is done, or where the occupation is engaged in, or where the transaction took place. So that would be all for our presentation regarding the topic Situs Taxation. Thank you so much for listening.
And it goes a little something like